Now, this law of reaping and sowing is a two-edged sword. Because if you sow good seeds, you will reap a good reward. But if we sow evil seeds, we will reap what we have sown. The Quran, which is the book of scripture of Muslims, talks about a book that each of us is writing based on our deeds, and that in the judgment we will be given our book. And if the book is given in our right hand, this would mean that our good deeds are heavy and would outweigh the deeds that we have done that are not good. But if our book is given to us in our left hand, then our evil deeds, which outweigh our good, therefore the consequences of our evil deed, we will meet in the day of judgment. Well, the Quran also says that when we see our book, we will say, "Woe is me." The recording angel did not leave out anything. And the Quran also says that if the evil is the weight of an atom hidden in a rock and the rock buried in the earth, yet will Allah bring it forth. So there's no hiding place for anybody in the day of judgment. We have prayed in the Al-Fatiha saying that Allah is master of the day of judgment, master of the law of requital, that he can requite us fully for what we have earned or lessen it, for he's more than a judge. For a judge can only act in accordance with the law, but the master of the law that God has set up in the universe is able to lessen the consequence, take away the consequence, or give us the full measure of the consequences of our action. Then the Quran says, in that day, you will see every nation kneeling down before its book. Now, many of us would wonder, what angel is writing down my deeds? We'd like to get to that angel. But since the nature of God is righteousness and justice, and he created the human being that is not a devil in his nature, then every time we depart from the principle of justice and righteousness, it is recorded in our own brain. Just as when an airplane crashes, there's a black box that records everything that led to the crash, records everything of the instruments of the plane, so that those who survived the crash can look at the black box and determine what happened to that plane. Our black box is our brain that has recorded everything that we have done outside of the law of justice and righteousness. Now, to prove this point, every one of us can go back into our childhood and remember every dirty little thing we did that we know was incorrect. And every dirty little thing that we do is recorded up to the present time. Isn't it interesting that you can't remember all the good that you've done? As you can't remember how many breaths you took in the last hour. Because as breathing is natural, the doing of good for the righteous is just as natural as breathing. But since you are the righteous, it's so unnatural for you and me to do wrong, then all the wrong that we do is remembered. And woe is me, we haven't forgotten anything. Now, what kind of book does America have? Since every deed that America has done is recorded somewhere. They have stacks of emails today, stacks of congressional records, state records, city records, court records. They got a book. Every act that America has done is recorded. So what kind of record does America have before God and the law of justice and righteousness? Don't be deceived. Don't be self-deluded, for God is not mocked. Whatsoever a nation soweth, the same shall that nation also reap. With the sins of the world, as I mentioned the last time I spoke, the condition of the world is an indictment against their governments. So the only way to remove a world like this is by the same way a world like this came into power. This is why the rulers of the present world always walk on a red carpet. Because they came to power shedding the blood of others, and they maintained their power through war and the shedding of blood. So as Jesus said, those who live by the sword will die by the sword. And he even goes so far as to say, if you sow the wind, you will reap the whirlwind. What has America sowed, and what shall America reap? She has said to the world that she's a model of virtue and moral turpitude or correctness. She has declared to the world that she's the moral champion and that she has the right to sit down dictators and leaders that are not according to her liking. She has said in her own eyes that she's a God beside God, and has developed the power to destroy the 6 billion people that live on our planet 100 to 300 times over. She's a mighty power, styled in the book of Revelations as a beast. So the question is asked, who can make war with the beast? For the beast has brought down fire from heaven. Well, you know Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It was America that brought down fire. in nuclear war. I have been reading recently that the plans are already made for America to attack the Islamic Republic of Iran. They can't win a ground war in Iraq, and they can't win a ground war in Iran. So the only way to defeat Iran and bring her to her knees and cause the world to tremble is to use her nuclear power, claiming that she's knocking out Iran's nuclear capabilities while all the time killing innocent civilians.